Welcome to this episode of AAI. Yes, Ask an Innovator, the place to come if you want the real deal. See, keeping it real at the end of the day is all we can do. Innovation is about identifying real needs, real solutions to real problems. I am really excited to dive into the mind of our esteemed guest, Mr. Boshcoff. Mr. Ken Boshcoff is not going to get off easy today. He never has. See, he chooses the path less traveled. He has lived a life as an innovator, a risk taker, and I would say the real deal maker. Thanks for joining me, Ken.
Well, now I have to live up to that. Okay.
This is my favorite part of the show.
All
From
right.
here, it just goes downhill
Okay.
really fast. Wow, I'm super excited to have you. As a lot of our viewers know, what happens off camera is really where the magic is. So I'm just gonna get back to some of the things we were talking about before the show.
Sure.
We all know who you are. We all know where you've been. What are you up to now?
Well, I'm very excited to say that I've taken on the role of a tournament director for the Stoll Foundation Open.
Amazing.
Which, as you know, when you talk about innovation, Scott Smith, when he conceived of this idea 5 or 6 years ago and built the Stoll Foundation Open to be the premier PGA Tour, flagship for the PGA Tour in Canada, meaning 44 people who've played here are now in the big leagues for the PGA. It tells you
Wow.
the degree of investment of world golf has in Thunder Bay.
Isn't that amazing?
When they do their TV show at the end of the series of all the places, I mean, the aerials of the Sleeping Giant and the golf course and the lakes and the Lake Superior and stuff. I mean, people eat this up all over the world seeing Thunder Bay. So it's exciting.
Being such a part of the tapestry of Thunder Bay for so long, when you mentioned Thunder Bay and the PGA in the same sentence, it must feel great.
You know, when Scott Smith started this, there were 5 of these tournaments 5 years ago. Now there's 14 this year, and we're still the flagship. We are the benchmark for number of volunteers, number of sponsors, number of people spectating, coming out for it. Some of them are just happen in their communities. This is not only Thunder Bay, it's Oliver Papoon, so we've got a double whammy
Double
for it.
whammy. The economic impact of the tournament is absolutely amazing. I know firsthand the impact that it's had on my businesses. Golfers come to town, they need to eat, they spend money in the community, and they spend good money.
You know, our sponsors have been very supportive and generous to us, and but there's no doubt that we're already getting calls. Could you make some reservations for us? And of course, we have all these NHLers, Hall of Famers, Stanley Cup winners, and sports announcing celebrities who are internationally renowned coming to our city and going to restaurants and talking about what a great time they have here. So it's credit to the community that we are not only well known for our hospitality, but for our organizational skills.
Amazing.
So being the tournament director is like, there's such a team of volunteers that are just so strong in what they do. They go, well, how is this come? Ken, it's under control. Okay. I didn't really, yes, I was just asking. And because they know exactly what to do. But like anything else, you always need new people coming in for various reasons.
Sure.
And so we're always looking for more volunteers. But it's one thing that I could actually tell people, you're going to have fun and you're going to meet really good people.
So you're clearly still busy outside of public life, in private life, working in the private sector. You're clearly busy, you're clearly innovating, you're clearly forging ahead. Would you choose a life solely public? If you had to have only one, would it be just public, or would it just be, say, as an entrepreneur?
No,
It's an unfair question, really.
Well, but it's a very fair one. No, it's not unfair.
No? Okay, good.
Because people who've known entrepreneurial spirit realize that the gratification that you get from yourself of being able to achieve, but also from being able to deliver something that makes other people happy, as opposed to being a total rip-off artist selling fake stuff or
And they
whatever.
exist.
So, but if you, when I was a planner or when I was in the insurance industry, if you know your stuff and you're giving someone good advice, well, you know, there's a lot of personal satisfaction in knowing that you're someone people can trust because you are smart enough to have learned what you have to know to give them the best advice,
Yeah, well
so that
said.
their home or their business gets good insurance coverage.
Right.
So I love being a broker in that time in my life, and so you know, even as with the Stoll tournament, I mean, it's a community happening because all of humanity needs to celebrate. And if we can celebrate the fact that we can achieve such a great thing,
Yeah.
the fact that we have a world-class golf course in Whitewater here, the fact that we have such an army of volunteers, we want to show off our community. So there's a huge amount of community pride. When Mayor Lucy from Oliver Papoonge, you know, gives her team a pep talk when they're out there barbecuing for the volunteers, well, you get a good feeling from it, because it is as other directed as you could be about people caring about other people.
We talked a little bit about leadership. Management is leadership. There's two types of management, micro and macro management. Are you a micromanager or are you a macro manager?
I'm a micromanager.
I love that you can
I'm an
admit that.
organizational guy, and
Yeah.
I use checklists, and I make sure everything is done. So, what is difficult is being a micromanager. Not that I don't trust my staff. I let them do their thing and let them make mistakes if they have
Yeah.
to. But being a micromanager also means that you take, well, you're very sensitive to people who, like a board of directors, who may be micromanaging you. So,
Yeah, it's hard to micromanage a micromanager.
well, that's the word. But when you realize, you know, volunteer boards care so much, they just want to make sure everything's done right.
Passion.
So for us, myself and my team of Aaron Pekcha and Patrick Galloway, we work well with our board, and our volunteers are. I mean, people are asking what can we do to help. So it makes light work of a lot of detailed heavy work. And so, I mean, it's still building now to a crescendo, but to testimony to the Stoll family name, you know, sponsors come and go, and you know, donations come and go, but by the time this show airs, we'll be pretty much sold out of everything that we have to offer in terms of spots in the golf tournament, suites for companies to rent for the day, hole sponsors, tee-back sponsors, that type of thing.
That's amazing, Ken. You mentioned one word to me that I love, crescendo. This is the crescendo for this segment. We're going to be right back with Mr. Ken Boshcoff, my mayor, Mr. Ken Boshcoff.
Boshcoff's better.
That Boshcoff's better. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. Here I go again. I almost got Ken's last name right. I think I called it something else, but Ken thought that was funny, so we're going to go with you. I won't do it again. Boshcoff, Mr. Boshcoff, my mayor, Mr. Boshcoff. Here he is. So again, off camera, I said something kind of interesting about a new hashtag movement. We're not going to get into hashtag #MeToo. We will leave that. We will leave you out of the controversy of hashtag #MeToo. But I have a new one. Hashtag raise the roof. Now this is my attempt at being a little bit political. Victoriaville Mall, we're talking about Thunder Bay. We love Thunder Bay. You live and breathe it. I'm learning to live and breathe it. I would love to live and breathe a Victoria Mall, a roofless, a raise the roof, a hashtag raise the roof, get the roof off of Victoriaville Mall. Can you help me do that?
That's an interesting question because I didn't know what you were going to ask me about that.
Yeah. That was by design.
Really, without getting too technical, the engineering aspects of what that building's infrastructure may mean that most of the stuff, air conditioning and heating, is in the roof. So the whole idea, though, that we have to think differently about how we want to address urban situations, because we know the mall concept is being reviewed, and that many places that used to be destination shopping malls are now residential areas. Or they're multi-use facilities. So the whole idea about what you can do to innovate with a fixed physical structure like that means that your only limitations are A, financial,
Right.
and B, creative in terms of what can we put in there, because I used to hang out with all our friends would hang out on Victoria Avenue when we were teenagers, Paul Schaefer and all the gang, right?
Yeah.
And different high schools would hang out in different parks.
Of course you're friends with Paul Schaefer. I love that.
Well,
It's amazing.
almost anybody who's met Paul
Yeah.
remains his friend. He's
Yeah.
that kind of person.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, and in the music world, I've been halfway around the planet and say Thunder Bay, and people go, oh, I played with Paul.
Right.
So
Amazing.
He is a true ambassador of the city. So
Yeah.
the fact that he doesn't forget his roots is testimony to the depth of the personality.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of what you do with a community, a community could be a series of streets, or it could be a connecting link of people, right? So if they can fix Times Square
Right.
to address in New York for those, if they can address the traffic problems in Times Square, make it bicycle friendly, make it pedestrian friendly, and make it, Parisian courtyard style in the world's heaviest traffic zone, then you have to realize that we can put a TV set on a speeding asteroid that's going at 60,000 kilometers
Right.
an hour. We can, really, some of these things can be overcome.
Right.
It requires some political will, but it also requires community belief and buy-in.
Right. I'm going to read something, and we're going to commit, hopefully, the whole segment. We only have 5 more minutes. I would like to talk about Victoriaville for a little bit. For me, it's something that's very near and dear. I believe that we should have a viable downtown core. I believe that any downtown is the lifeblood and the pulse of any real community. I see Thunder Bay being transplanted here from bigger centers, working in New York City, working in Montreal. You mentioned New York City, you mentioned Times Square. New York City was almost bankrupt. Times Square was the epicenter and, in a lot of ways, the root of the bankruptcy. If we could fix an economy by revitalizing Times Square, we could probably do a lot to the economy of Thunder Bay by revitalizing Victoriaville.
It may sound pie in the sky and far-fetched, but it really requires a buy-in just from the community. Bay and Algoma essentially revitalized itself without any influx of money. Except for the investors who are entrepreneurs, deciding that they were going to revitalize that area.
Yeah.
And one you know, from the Bean Fiend to the Madhouse to the
Sure.
Hoito to
Amazing.
you know, all those stores, Finport and stuff were, yeah, you know what, we'll do this. And when you think of the Waterfront BA as an organization that said, we've got something here, we're going to be the restaurant, we're going to be the destination area, and instead of saying, no, that's too many restaurants, bring them on.
Yeah.
And people, when they go, well, I don't want to go to the same place, but I know where to go to have something
That's
to
right.
eat.
If you build it, they will come. It's called the clustering effect.
Absolutely.
Really.
So
Victoriaville has, so here's, Mike Laritza is a person I respect immensely. He might be the largest landowner, him and his family, in and around the Victoriaville area. Mike gave me a massive amount of information on why it would benefit not just the community, but also his own businesses, being a taxpayer and also an innovator in the Victoriaville area. He pointed out a couple things here. So it happened at Keskus Mall, right? We took out Keskus. Do you think that taking out Keskus has revitalized the downtown Port Arthur core?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that mall owed $1.5 million in taxes, plus or minus.
Yeah.
Was totally empty. We really did have a parking problem in the North Core. There weren't any cars to park, coming down there to park. And I mean, in its heyday, Keskus was the place to go, right?
Right,
I mean, it
sure.
was phenomenal,
Eaton's.
the whole thing.
It was cool.
So as the evolution of merchandising and shopping changes, we have to be as contemporary as that. So now, when you look at what has been done there, it answers its own question.
Sure, I agree. Here are some businesses in and around the Victoriaville area that Mike pointed out to me. A massive employment base, St. Joe's, 20,000 square feet, that's totally rented out. Nan, Revenue Canada, the City of Thunder Bay, over 100 employees, the courthouse, the chapel building, Centennial Square, which has 350 employees, Oshki Pamanchowin, Wenjack Education Institute, which is offering college and university courses. The list goes on and on. Victoriaville has a lot of workers.
Even your arch rival restaurant George is there. Right?
And I love, yes, good. Shout out to Bianca and crew. Absolutely. George, iconic restaurant. Now, Excuria was there, and now what happens to all these people in your opinion at night? Actually the segment's just is winding up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. We're going to start the last half of the first half of the last segment. We're going to get back into this a little bit. It's stimulating. This is my hashtag. This is hashtag raise the roof. I thought, what a great, probably one of the more influential people in the region. Why not try it out on Ken Boshcoff? I got it right. I won't do your last name strange again. Stay with us. Ask an Innovator. I'm pumped up. Ken's dropping science. Welcome back to Ask an Innovator. Sitting to my left, my mayor, Mr. Ken Boshcoff. He probably hates it when I do that, but this is the first time I've done this. No, it's my show, so I'm going to call you what I want. You're my mayor, Ken. All right, here we go. Mike Laritza wrote me this beautiful paragraph. I have to read it. We're back to Victoriaville. We're back to hashtag raise the roof. My name is Mike Laritza. Myself and my family own a fair amount of real estate in downtown Fort William. We also own the largest retail location in the area as well. It is safe to say that there's a large interest in the success of the area. My family has a large interest in the success of the area. The landlords attached to Victoriaville, who also pay and levy to be attached to the mall, feel it's time for change. There is no ego in play. As one landlord, Rene Larson, a past city councillor who voted to construct Victoriaville, Mr. Larson has also been on record admitting it was a mistake to construct the mall and it has finally served its purpose. The point, and this is Mike Laritza, I quote, "The point I'm trying to make is why would any landlord be in favor of removing the center if it wouldn't benefit the area? All of us have seen the negative impact it has had on the downtown Fort William and have heard that our past tenants have said regarding the center. If any of us thought Victoriaville Mall was an asset to Fort William and Thunder Bay, we wouldn't be so vocal regarding the situation. Mike is clearly vocal. Have other people been vocal in trying to raise the roof, trying to get rid of the mall?
It's been an interesting thing. I was not elected when Victoriaville was built, but it was opened 2 weeks after I was elected, so my name is on the plaque as if I was one of the councillors.
Right.
Okay, it's somewhere in there. So clearly, things go through their evolutionary time. The covered mall was built largely as to compete with Cascous, and now it has long expired. But it had critics right from the very beginning. If you understand the origin, was that a lot of the downtown merchants at that time pressured City Council to put a covered mall in to compete with the north side. So
Right. Makes sense.
as that has changed, and whether it was the model or the type of ownership, those types of things, we're now in a long past due date of adapting to what people who may be the customers, the client base, as well as the ownership who wants to invest in that. And if neither of those people agree that the model is working, then the elected people, that is the City Council, has to act.
Right.
So I'm surprised that it's taken this long, because I had heard 4 years ago or so that a decision was made to do something with the mall. So I haven't tracked it as in any kind of obsessive kind of way as to why it went off the rails, but clearly it's long overdue.
I think it's safe to say the opposite of innovation. We love to talk about innovation on the show. The opposite of innovation is procrastination. You mentioned that at the break.
Well,
Are we procrastinating?
yeah, and people want decision makers to
Make decisions.
and you may say, is doing something with the mall right or wrong? Well, not doing anything with the mall is far worse. That I think is what is frustrating people more, because without a decision moving forward on the mall, the surrounding area also goes into another land of what decision can we make in terms of expanding? Do we buy the adjacent property and make a bigger parking lot, or do something else? So it becomes a disservice by not making a decision.
The more I learn about this issue with this mall, with this poor plan, is that it's a no-brainer when I talk to people like Mr. Laritza, who are business owners who are heavily invested financially and culturally into the community. When I talk to successful people like yourself from a political, also and at a private level, it seems like a no-brainer. It would therefore mean that our current leadership is procrastinating or not making a decision.
I have to admit that I haven't been following City Hall or. I've been so.
Am I supposed to believe that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just don't.
That is amazing. I love it.
I mean, I don't know what I don't. Anyways, I don't. So,
yeah, that's amazing.
But people tell me enough about it to keep me in the loop about what's going on. But no, I've been working full time, day and night on the Stoll Foundation Open. So I'm pretty focused on what I have to do.
I bet. We'll spend the last couple minutes. I'll leave my hashtag raise the roof. We've beaten that horse. More to come on that, I imagine, and I might be asking you for a little bit of support down the road. We talked a little bit about leadership, leading from the front, leading from the back, leading from the middle, working with the stalls, working with the family. Are they leaders? How do they lead?
They lead by a quiet example and a balanced approach to life, and caring about family and community, and they really are a benchmark. I remember coming across Henry and Linda with Eric the day before the draft in Eaton Centre. At that time I was the president of the Municipal Association of Ontario, and oh, how are you doing, and stuff like that. To this day, Eric tells my nieces and nephews and other players, oh yeah, Ken was there when I was looking for a suit for the draft and stuff. So I've been admirers of the family ever since, and as a hockey fan, of course, anyways. So let's just use families such as that to say, of which there are countless in the community who give back to the community and understand the absolute necessity of the value system, and that unless you can share and unless you can understand those who quite aren't as fortunate as you, then life really doesn't have as the importance it should. So when I get energized from what I see throughout Thunder Bay. There's a lot of people who care about lots of different causes, and leaders have to be shoulder to shoulder, and they have to have their hand in their pocket. They have to be able to say, here's my tithe, my share. This is all I have. It's not a lot, but yeah, the answer is yes, it does help.
And the answer is yes, Ken, you have helped. You have helped make this show absolutely amazing. I would say in the 6 months or so that we've been on, this has, for me, been the cherry on my sundae. I'm humbled to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you next week on Ask an Innovator.